Good morning. I'm Howard Spence. I want to thank you for taking time to stop by to visit with me and to check out my new podcasts. I do podcasts both visually, and those can be found on my YouTube channel at Minority ADR 2090. And I also have posted my blog articles and my podcast articles elsewhere on platforms such as Spotify. And I hope that you will be interested to take a look at the more than 200 blog articles and postings I have made. Many of those I have posted to Facebook over the past 2 or 3 years, where I voice my opinions and my concerns and my suggestions from the perspective of a black progressive American. And I, as I'm sure many of you yourselves, feel that it is important that we all have a voice to express our views and our concerns. And so if you like what you see here, I hope that you'll tell your friends, and I hope that you will come back and see some of the additional episodes which I am putting together at this point. Today is March 14th and 2025. I am moving on from some of the prior podcasts that I have recorded and published to a new series dealing with what I am calling the Flat Earth Society. These series or stories that I use to group episodes of my commentary and my podcasts and my blogs all seem to have a relationship to what's on my mind, and hopefully what's on the minds of many of my friends and followers. So today I'm going to be moving into a discussion, a series of episodes relating to things on my mind about the Flat Earth Society. And as many of you may know, the Flat Earth Society is one group of people who have historically been regarded as having lost their minds, to be historically regarded as being not operating on the same wavelength or fact basis as many, if not most, Americans. And this is indicative and a reflection, actually, of a great split and divide which is occurring now in America. And that is a divide on what is truth and what is reality. And it appears in many aspects of our discourse here in America, and it also, in my view, explains or reflects some of the serious disagreements and differences that we have in terms of how we regard the world around us. And I have, during many of my blog postings over the past 2 or 3 years, and more recently in my podcast publications or articles, indicated that I tend to try to explain or view things going on in the environment around me in terms of 4 or 5 different perspectives or criteria, which I have typically used as keywords, and I've also used those as ways that I can attempt to explain what I see going on around me. And those keywords or criteria that I have used are in flux occasionally. I started out with using 3 primary criteria or perspectives to explain politics and culture, and those were race, religion, and sex gender. How people react to others around them in terms of race, how people react to others around them in terms of their religious beliefs and creeds, and how people around us tend to react based upon issues of both gender, male, female, or whatever, and sex. What motivates people? Why do they focus on certain types of things? But more recently, I've come to the conclusion as I evolve in my criteria that sometimes these things interact in a way that ends up making for new merged keyword concepts. And one of the ways that I have evolved my criteria is to recognize the importance of the influence of money or power, or how people perform and do certain things for pecuniary reasons. What's in it for me? And also another way of looking at the melange or mixing of these concepts relates to simply, even within these individual criterias, what are the things that differentiate us? For example, within the population of Black Americans or Negro slave descendants, we see a wide variety of reactions and perspectives, including some which are very conservative and middle class, and some that are quote ghetto or working class or lower class types of concepts. And so the concept of class, which I have decided more recently to identify as caste, becomes important in understanding. And we saw this in the last election, where there are starting to be some significant deviations from traditional political and cultural coalitions, where some of the other criteria, such as race, become less important in terms of explanation and prediction of what people will do, and we then have to turn to say, why is this evolution occurring? And quite often it is occurring because within those initial criteria, we now find that there is becoming a variation. 50 or 60 years ago, when I was growing up and in college, at that point in time, there seemed to be a more unified existence, perhaps in the concept of race and also in religion, and also our attitudes towards sex and gender. But over time, as certain members of each of these groups has become more educated or aware of things that are scientific or fact-based, and as we see that there has been progress, we start seeing that some of those concepts and some of those expectations for these criteria and groups has changed. And I think this often is demonstrated by the fact that, for example, in race, when I was growing up, there was a very small group of Black or Negro slave descendants who had been able to achieve progress in terms of things such as education. I myself was a first generation Black in my family to go to college, and my father, who I love dearly and respect greatly, grew up in Mississippi, where I was born, and he only went to the 4th grade before he had to go out into the fields and hoe cotton and try to feed his surviving family basically on shareholder wages, until such time as he was able to escape with his family out of Mississippi to go north to become a part of that movement back in the 50s and 60s of migration of Black people to better opportunity. And so since that time, we've come across a resistance or reactionary movement within racial groups where a lot of white Americans have said enough is enough. Black people, Negro slave descendants, and people of color have progressed to the point where now they think they are as good as white people. And so therefore they claim that we are living in a post-racial society, which I believe is a misconception, a delusion. But aside from that, the way that they react to the environment, to politics in the United States here during the 2020 decade is different from what I would have reacted to when I was growing up during the civil rights movement at places like Michigan State and University of Michigan. So that is a part of what this series is going to be about, the evolution of these criteria or concepts and how that has impacted on how we interact with these new ways of tabulating or looking at things in our environment. Now, I would say as I move forward, this is the first episode in what I call the Flat Earth Society series of stories, and from here I anticipate that over the next several months there will be plenty of material and fodder for me to highlight some of these things that separate us and divide us, whether they are artificial or not. And a lot of that will have to be taken with a certain degree of humility and perspective of trying to understand that we live in a world today which is not post-racial or post-religion, but a world in which the very definition of what is realistic and what is truth and what is fact are all under challenge. And quite often that is what is the factor that would qualify my discussions to go into this series of podcasts and articles in my blog platforms and social media platforms about what is fact, what is reality. And I would preface this introductory podcast in the series by saying that quite often what we're looking at is a situation in which one group of people are basing their perception of the world on their beliefs. My grandmother told me this. The pastor at my church told me this. When I was young, I saw this revelation, and I think that explains, at least to my satisfaction, what the world is really like. That is the area of belief. And on the other side, we see the perspective of people who have become better educated formally. And they are the people who generally seek facts rather than beliefs. The people who go to college and learn about concepts such as evolution or political coalitions and so forth, about economics, about why is my life like this and your life like that, about economics, about a whole bunch of series of issues depending on your education and what you see as truth. You can come to very different conclusions about what is truth. And I think it shows up even today in the 21st century by looking at some of the ways in which information is disseminated. And in fact, using some of the internet types of information dissemination, we see that we have now tools such as Twitter, TikTok, a whole bunch of other varieties of ways of getting our information, and many of those are propagated based on propaganda, based upon conspiracy theories, based upon science that may not actually be science, speculation. And so we have a continuing dialogue or confrontation, in my view, quite often, between the truth that is a belief and the truth that is an observation. And it shows up quite often in something as simple as a saying, don't believe what your eyes seem to show you, believe what I tell you. I have this message, whether it comes from a God on high or whether it comes from some prophecy or view I have developed and woke up in the middle of the night believing fervently, whether it comes from some stories that have been passed down for generations and decades and even centuries about the origin of mankind and the purpose of mankind. And it shows up even in the naming that we have for these various platforms for information dissemination. Probably one of the most famous methods for dissemination presently is on platforms on the internet such as Truth Social. And I have a bias to believe that a lot of the truths which you find on Truth Social are not really factual. Those are propaganda. Those are things that someone wants you to believe because you don't have or you have not been able to come up with a better explanation, or you simply want somebody else to tell you what to believe. It's a lot easier to believe what QAnon or a Donald Trump would tell you than it would be to believe something that a Howard Spence would tell you based upon facts that he has learned. And so that is the introduction and the premise that I'm using as we go into this series. A number of topics I want to address, but basically the tension between all of those topics and the explanation for a large amount of the divide and even acrimony that we see in our world today ultimately goes back to the fact that it is easier for some people to believe something than it is for them to understand something or to be able to articulate a basis for their belief. And interestingly, since a lot of the belief aspects generate in religion, or that part of culture called religion, we see situations where people become offended if you don't agree that their understandings are actually their God's truth. And so therefore we have, even within groups, even within the true believers and the fact believers, inconsistencies based upon what we have been taught, either from our ancestors or from academics or people who have followed what I call critical thinking. A critical thinking process is to look for cause and effect and verification. From a political standpoint, it's somewhat similar to saying trust but verify. And so you can trust what you believe, but can you verify it? And if you can't verify it, then sometimes what you say is trust is enough. And so that is basically one of the theses and approaches that I do. I used to teach online in graduate programs, and I had a wide variety of students. Some were very, very intelligent and well educated already. Others were not so much. And some of them actually were not there for learning, in my view, as much as for getting a credential that they could then use to justify what they believed as opposed to what they had personally been able to reason for themselves. So I'm a big believer of critical thinking. You can differ with me about how I see the world, but just like from a religious standpoint, and Christian nationalists say this all the time as they pound on their Bibles, for example, and say things like, this truth is so simple that even a fool could understand it, and I smile. I say, well, maybe so. Maybe it's so simple that even a fool could understand it. But and they say this is common sense. Well, common sense has a place. It's important that everyone have a certain background of common sense based upon what they have personally experienced and observed or learned or been taught. But if you rely solely on the fact that it seems like it could be, this makes common sense, and there's no basis for how you came to that conclusion, you may be way out in right field, not left field, trying to defend something not based on facts, but based upon anger and your ability to say, how dare you challenge what I have to say? You have nothing better to offer. And the dichotomy that sometimes arises in such a situation is that we all have a certain amount of things in our lives, in our spheres of reality that relate to belief. We all believe some things because we can't prove them or we don't have an understanding of them. And facts. We all see things and we don't want to deny what we see. Are you a magician? If you make a puff of smoke and then disappear, I saw it, but did I see something, or was it an apparition, or was it a trick, or whatever? And so we are constantly trying to weigh what we see, or what feels right, or what we believe, or what mom and dad told us, or grandpa, and things that some of our friends tell us. And that is an ongoing problem, and we're going to be seeing that type of discussion, I hope, if you do come back and visit with me on some of my other podcasts in this series of Flat Earth Society in the future, where we actually look at topics and things that are going around us, whether it's the wars in Ukraine or something such as fraud and abuse in our government or whatever. Some things may have a bit of truth and a lot of not truth. And so hopefully, just like with my students, I did not criticize students who believe things that I did not believe in and came to conclusions I did not agree with personally, but I at least give them credit for going through a critical thinking process to be able to attempt to justify their beliefs. I think that is important if you're not capitulating and giving up to just saying, I don't know, I don't care, I just stay and I believe what QAnon told me, or this political leader, or whatever. Sometimes, and I'll move toward a conclusion of this introductory episode dealing with critical thinking. Sometimes we have a situation where what we believe isn't working, and then we have the crisis of trying to decide what do we do. And I'll give you an example of where I see that. I've seen it several times, many times perhaps. In some fundamentalist religions, we have true believers who say, my Bible, my holy book teaches me that all healing is by faith, and my pastor or religious leader or guide or the person I greatly respect has told me that I should just pray and God will take care of every problem or illness I may have. And that's fine. I bumped into those types of people, but when the rubber meets the road, I've seen numerous people who claim to be solely and religiously convicted of their belief, for example, of faith healing. They contract a terminal illness such as breast cancer or pancreatic cancer, and they're praying and it's not getting better, and they may go to a doctor. Some people say, I would never go to a doctor, God takes care of me. But those same people who assert their beliefs as being the keystone and basis for their going through life, when confronted with the fact that they don't seem to be getting the relief they want from prayer or whatever, some of them will go and get a medical second opinion. And there have been some who have sworn throughout their lives that they would not become involved in any type of healing other than faith healing. Put your hands on me and God help me. When it gets to the time where they're confronted with, do you believe to the point that you are willing to die? We're all going to die, but do you believe in this faith healing or whatever concept to the point that you are not willing to try to preserve your life? A lot of people make that decision. I'm going to get a second opinion. And we see a lot of people who have for years proclaimed and taught their friends, their children, whatever, God takes care of you completely. The Judeo-Christian Bible suggests that God helps those who help themselves. And a lot of people have extended their lives because when it came to a time where belief alone wasn't getting the result they wanted, then they started using some critical thinking types of tools. And we saw that type of confrontation of situation not only with faith healing, but some of you are old enough, certainly I lived during this time, to remember Jim Jones, who was a self-proclaimed cult leader, Christian, who evolved into something similar to being a prophet or a god or a QAnon or whatever he wanted to be. And he started saying, we are being deprived of our religious liberty to believe that faith is the ultimate everything. And so therefore, we are going to leave this United States, which restricts our religious liberty and freedom. And so he moved with 900 of his disciples or believers or followers to Guyana, South America, and established a colony in the jungles there. And eventually, as a requirement of people showing their allegiance and faith and belief in what they profess to believe in, he told them that he had a vision from his God or from himself that they should all show their allegiance to him by being willing to drink arsenic or poison-laced Kool-Aid. And a number of them did. In fact, they did, and they started dying, and very shortly they found out that some of the people there said, wait, I am not for this Kool-Aid. And at that point, their God or their religious leader or belief inspiration told the others, grab them, force this arsenic down their throats. The usual concept that I really deplore in religion, which is especially evangelical religion, that my God wants me to force you to believe in him, and you have no free will in it, even though the Bible says you have free will to sin or to believe or whatever. And so I'm going to force you to believe. And the same thing was happening there in Guyana with Tim Jones. 900 people, men, women, children, died in a mass suicide and murder as a result of an attempt to show their faith. And some of them were recanting right at the time prior to being forced to drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak, that they no longer believed. And since they no longer believed, let me out of here. Did not work. So I've rambled. I've shared a lot of thoughts with you. And I think I've given you a basis for seeing what I kind of hope to effect with this particular series of podcasts. And I hope that you come back. As I indicated, and perhaps you will see in the materials that appear in this podcast or in my blog articles, that you will want to respond to my podcast on YouTube, for example. Leave a comment, and you don't have to agree with me. I wish you would be civil and respect the fact that I try to respect you. But if you show intelligence to the extent, and if you show politeness and an inquisitive mind to an extent, I will respect your comments even if I disagree with them. I do not respect fools, and I also know that common sense is not always reality. So yeah, go to YouTube. Minority ADR 2090 is my channel. I have podcasts there. I have a lot of videos that I've done over the past decade relating to community activism. I've allowed other people to publish on my YouTube channel, and so therefore I'm not suggesting that everything you will find there that is not my own is worthy of being considered. But yeah, do go there. And as I indicated, I'm beginning to post podcasts on Spotify. My blog post will give you, like I indicated, a lot of material to show who is Howard and what is he thinking, and several ways to get to my blog. The URL for my blog, my blogs, and again, you'll find keywords. You can look up what I've had to say on a certain number of topics, is black-gold.org, black-gold.org. And another way of getting there, perhaps just as directly or more so, is to go to a URL, which is a podcast website that I'm putting together now, and it's Spence, SPENCE -associates.blog, BLOG. So with that, I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great month, and I hope you have a great desire to respond to something I said, or at least to listen again. I'm not here to convert people to anything. I believe in free will, but I certainly, above all, believe in an educated mind. And I'm not pushing the concept of a talented tenth, which historically I've seen advocated, where 10% of people in a certain group represent the intelligence or the better part of that group. The people who have gone to college historically, they are the 10%ers that somebody like W.E.B. Du Bois spoke about well over a century ago. But I'm not going there, because my interest is dealing with common people who come from backgrounds like I do, who are trying to make a difference in this world, and who have great hope and expectations of their children and the future generations, who have come to love this country we call the United States of America, and who are willing to give value to concepts I value as a black progressive American, concepps of liberty, freedom, democracy. So with that, hey, I hope to see you again soon.